Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here bright and early. So I have one nuance to mention here that in the previous funds that I'd run, we were an OKX client. And I have to say the execution, ideas are free, ideas are cheap. Execution is everything, and OKX did a really terrific job of executing on everything that we were doing. And I mentioned that as a bias, so this is going to be a little bit of a warm discussion because you guys did an excellent job for us. But listen, I really appreciate you being here. You're sharing your insights. You've done remarkable things with OKX already that we'll touch on over the course of the conversation. But I wanted to start off with, look, anytime you're starting a company, anytime you're building for the future, you have some North Star vision. You have some longer term ideas for where you think things are headed for the future of finance and how you integrate into that. And I think it would be really great to start there and just understand where you see things headed and where you see OKX's role in that direction.
Thank you, Marcel, and we'll give you some favorable fee for saying nice things about our platform. I think to talk about the future, let's go back 4 or 5 years of OKX history. When I joined the firm, the world looked a little different. This was 2020, and arguably there were 2 types of crypto exchanges. There were the primary exchanges coming out of the United States or onshore US, either Coinbase and the likes. And then there were exchanges that were being built in Asia. And we found ourselves in a place where we started to define these 2 exchanges as offshore exchanges versus onshore exchanges. So when I joined OKX, one of the key things I wanted to do was globalize the company because I saw a lot of promises in infrastructure. When the markets went parabolic in 2017 or I think 2016, you might remember a lot of exchanges went down. It happened during COVID, it happened recently. But during all those volatility periods, OKX maintains its uptime. And the reason is our founder's an engineer. He's built a phenomenal infrastructure that can actually handle incredible volumes. So we had to bring that engineering power to the world. The last 4 years has been an obsession to globalize the company, and there were a couple of components that we felt were important to bring our engineering infrastructure to service people globally. One was we knew that we had to get licensed in different markets. And this is even before the recent regulatory clarity we've started to see coming out of the United States, Europe, and even UAE. The second was that we knew we needed an interface that would be relevant to people around the world. Now look, we service a lot of younger people on the platform. They want to see a clean, easy, modern interface. And I think these 2 components were really important. And then thirdly, we wanted millions and millions and millions of people to know that we exist. And I think that's been primarily the focus of the company over the last few years. You look at 5 years ago in 2020, we were called OKEX. There was another offshoot in the United States called OKCoin. So one of the first things I wanted to do was clean up the house and call it OKX. There was a reason why we got rid of the E, because we weren't just an exchange anymore. We had ambitions to be a cross-platform. And we got rid of all the other sub-brands. So now it's just very clean. It's OKX everywhere. It's not OKX UAE or OKX US. It's just an OKX brand, the same way you see it on Man City sleeves, or you see it on the back of McLaren tails, or what have you.
Excellent. Well, let me pull on that thread a little bit, this idea of kind of the everything component of what you describe. OKX has migrated from not only an exchange, but now being active in Web3, being active in decentralized finance, the idea of bringing everything on chain, something the SEC chair now thinks is going to happen within 2 years, very ambitious. How do you think about the evolution of OKX in that context, and where does it fit into the global financial system on a future basis?
So for us, we see a world where maybe 3-5 years from now, people around the world are going to use blockchain-based financial products for pretty much everything related to finance. So we imagine a world where you are taking most of your value that you earn and putting it on an app like OKX, and you have very easy discoverability of different DeFi protocols. So say you put your value there, you know that you can spread it across 3 to 5 low-risk DeFi protocols and earn a very favorable yield. Call it a savings account. My compliance team probably won't let me do that. But I think that's the inherent value of those DeFi protocols is you put your money, you're earning yield. It's much more simpler than going in and out of a CD product, where at least in my case in the United States, I have to call my financial advisor, I have to tell them what I intend to do. They'll then recommend a couple of CDs or other instruments, and then I go put my value in there. But guess what? It's really difficult for me to then deploy that value instantly into the markets. If I want to unlock the CD, there's a lockup period. I have penalties related to it. And when I want to go into, say, the markets, there's like a delay. I have to withdraw out of the CD, then deposit it into my broker account. By the time I do that, I've probably already lost the market opportunity. And I think on OKX, we're trying for that experience to be very seamless. So you put your value, it's generating yield for you. But when you see the market opportunity, you're able to quickly go and deposit it into your trading account, and voila, you're able to go and get exposure to the markets. So it solves for the use case of your daily financial app, where it's generating yield, but also something where you can quickly deploy it into different investment opportunities. But then there are other services we're also envisioning. We have recently launched the OKX Pay product. This is an on-chain payment product globally that we're slowly rolling out. And the value there is it's built on top of a practical self-custody model. It uses passkeys, so you don't have to deal with the complexity of saving your seed phrase or your backup phrases. And you're able to use it for remittance globally, and you're able to even do it on a group level. So when I was younger, I used to go out with friends and we'd use an app in the US called Splitwise. And that was our way to split value, say if we were at a dinner. On OKX Pay, you can actually do that very, very easily. And it's all on chain. So you can see how we're using different building blocks in finance to make an everything blockchain finance app for people's daily life. And it tends to be more practical, and you can deploy money from one experience to another experience.
So I would, if I were to do a soundbite on that, programmable finance. I mean, that's the future. The fact that it's on chain allows it to be programmable, but programmable finance is your future. Let me do a quick hit before just a real quick hit. In that context of what you described, what's more important to you? Is it the user experience, or to gain mass adoption? Is it the user experience that's going to gain us mass adoption, or is it the technological foundation, or the combination of the two? Because right now, the user experience, I love everything you're describing, and the user experience just seems a little lacking. It seems like a little extra effort to get a lot of these programmable forces at work.
I think they're very much connected with each other. I would argue that you do need the strong foundations before you can build a great interface. So if you look at our Web3 experience, our wallet, we're chain agnostic. You can access pretty much any chain natively. You don't have to do bridging on our wallet, which makes us quite unique. But with that infrastructure, now we're having to design a really cool interface. I think those two things are very connected, but you have to start with the foundation before you can address the interface.
Understood. Follow up to that. What do you think it'll take to get asset managers and CIOs and that like to jump into these markets and take advantage of the programmable finance that you're describing, the foundational layers that you have? Where do you think we are in that stage? Are we at 1 out of 10? Are we at 4 out of 10? And what do you think it takes to get us moving?
I think we're probably halfway there. I would say probably 5 out of 10. And I probably peg a lot of that onboarding related to regulatory clarity in different markets. Now, US is seeing maturity in its regulations, but there's still work ahead of us. There's an anticipated market structure bill. We're still waiting on how CFTC will define some of the rules. So I think we're halfway there. Europe, you have the MiCA infrastructure. In UAE, it's a lot more mature, arguably, than a lot of other markets. So I think for asset managers to come in, they're probably going to need to be really comfortable that the regulators have a very clear framework for exchanges to operate in those markets before they can really be risk on.
Got it. I want to zoom in just quickly on the UAE. So you've done really, as an organization, really quite incredible strides in the UAE. Local office, local licenses, employing more than 100 local people, local currency, payment rails. Tell me, how does the vision you've been describing integrate into the Emirates, and what are some positive surprises that you guys have experienced here?
So today, OKX, I think if you reverse back a year or so ago, we were among the first exchanges to get licensed by VARA. And I think we became one of the largest exchanges to have native bank partnerships. What that means is if you're in UAE, there's really easy fiat on and off ramps on a regulated platform, a regulated app. So what we've seen is a diversification of people who historically probably were questioning crypto are now looking at it with more seriousness and are experimenting with our app. The thing I love about UAE is if you look at the United States, there's a lot of diversity in the United States, but you can't compete with the diversity in UAE. I think in UAE, in a 70,000 kilometer area, you've got about 200 plus nationalities. I don't think US even comes close to that sandbox. So we really love that because when we put products and services out there, we really get a signal from many different parts of the world on how people are going to react with our services. So I think that's been a really surprising factor is while it's not as big a market as Europe or the United States, the signals you get here are far more useful than perhaps just the isolation of the United States or Europe.
Let's we're going to be tight on time here, but I want to end on a fun note. One way of gaining recognition to a broader audience is to start sponsoring conventional things that we're engaged in, like Man City. You did an amazing job of getting the brand with Man City. That happens to be the best football team within the Premier League, with a number of amazing Croats playing. You've got McLaren, which is now. So it'd be really nice to know the next one you're going to do, just so we can get ahead of it. But to talk a bit about what your thinking was along the lines of bringing in some of these fun sponsorships into the fold.
I think we were I'm pretty confident, I think we were one of the last exchanges to probably begin doing big sports partnerships during that hype phase. I think we actually started doing our sports partnerships when everything started to crash. This is, I believe, 2022. Markets weren't looking that great. The board was really questioning those decisions. But I guess I have to say, if you're a CMO for a trading exchange, you got to have some good trades, and those were my two best trades.
All right, awesome. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your clarity. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Marcel.